Gentlemen, hey, congratulations on this new documentary, The Medicine Man, the Stan Brock story.
A gig. Thank you so much for inviting both of us.
Hey, you know what? Not a problem, not a problem. I'm glad you guys have a chance to make this film and to speak with us. This is terrific. You know, it goes deep inside this. You know, the man behind the organization and his life and a lot of stuff. But let me throw out the first question. I guess this is much more of a Paul question. Is Paul, what originated, the idea to make a documentary?
Well, to be honest, my research skills go no further than just checking the newspapers. And in late 2011, I was looking at the Times in London, and they had this story about Stan Brock doing free medical clinics all across the US. And it included all the stuff from Stan's backstory about how he was British, he'd been cowboy in Guyana, been discovered by wildlife TV people in the States, gone to America. And I just thought, wow, this is absolutely incredible. At the time, I was working as a camera operator on documentaries, but I wanted to take on my first feature film. And I thought this is perfect because, you know, you've got an ongoing social issue that Stan's working on, but you've got this incredibly rich backstory, which would fulfill a full 90-minute feature-length documentary. You know, it's important that those longer documentary films have that depth, have that richness. So this is like Sunday evening, I read the article and think, I'm just going to Google RAM and call the office and just let them know I'm interested. So I do that, and somebody picks up the phone and he's like, "Remote Area Medical, Stan Brock speaking. How can I help you?" And I straight away, I just fell in love with him even more. I thought, he's obviously the real deal. Like, he talks about how he's devoted his life to this, and here he is on a Sunday night burning the midnight oil, answering the phone himself in the office, you know. And he's already been doing this for like 25 years at this point, and he's still, you know. So I was incredibly inspired and asked Stan if he'd consider doing the film with us, all about his life as well as what remote area medical do, but go back to all that very personal life stuff. And he was happy to do it. And I think one of the reasons why he chose to do it with us is that I think he saw something of that same DIY spirit that was used to start up remote area medical in us, the filmmakers, in the way that we did things, because we were really just a volunteer group as well, funded by donations when we started this film. And later on, we managed to get some support from Iambic Dream and Wild Kabani, very fortunately. But we started off with that same kind of just DIY, you know, get out there, do it yourself. And maybe he saw some parallel in the way he started remote area medical.
Well, then I'll toss it to Jeffrey here. Jeffrey, you know Stan best because I always imagine Stan to be a little bit introvert and reclusive. So I'm actually surprised he would do a documentary like this.
You know, when you see the documentary, he absolutely comes across was introverted. You know, he cared a great deal about people, but however, he really wanted to get the message out, you know, that there's a need for a healthcare. And coupling with Paul's "how do we get this done" attitude, which is exactly the same way that Stan had, was how do we get this done? How do we make people aware of this overarching healthcare issue here in the United States?
So, Paul, where do you start on the documentary on Stan like this? Did the documentary change over time as you go into production?
I mean, I can honestly say I started out this film with some very idealistic film school notions about how I wanted to make the ultimate, totally observational feature-length documentary film. And I still want to do that. But when I met Stan, I realized quite how deep and colorful all this history was. And these stories, these anecdotes he had from the past were so incredible that I thought, well, he's not going to be able to tell me these stories while he's doing the dishes at night. we're going to have to sit down and do formal interviews to really draw the drama out of the story. So we moved away from just observation to doing formal sit down lit interviews. That was the kind of first change of the ethos that we were. And then you think, God, these stories are so good. Oh, I wish there was some archive out there. And, you start digging around and realize, oh, wow, like Stan's got a ton of archive just in his filing cabinets in the office, like VHS tapes, whatever. But then there's a whole load of stuff out there in the world about Stan. Obviously, Wild Kingdom, but more difficult to find, perhaps. The BBC had done a documentary about Stan in 1968. They heard that there was this British guy running a ranch in Guyana, like the so-called barefoot cowboy, and they went down to. So then it's like, okay, we're obviously going to work with loads of archive, and then we thought, well, it's become a kind of generic mishmash now, so let's bring in everything we can, stills, some really like orchestral music, and we've chosen to use kind of as many stylistic techniques as possible, I think, to emphasize the drama. But that can only be achieved if you've got people working on the film who are masters at each part of those bits of the craft. And fortunately, I think we've had that. We've had a great editor in Tim Beeston, a great composer in Daniel Gadd. Katie Breyer also edited a lot of the film. And without these sort of highly skilled craftspeople, I don't think we would have made the story sing. So thank God we ditched those naive film school ideas early on.
Jeffrey, I'm assuming you've seen the film already, this documentary. Is there anything of Stan that wasn't portrayed in this film that you felt like that we didn't know about?
The thing about the film, Stan was very much like an onion. There was always another layer when you peeled one off. And I was totally amazed and blown out of the water at the beginning of the film with the motion projector running, and Stan just opens his heart up, as far as himself goes, and he just really lets you look inside of him and builds from there. So that was the eye-opening part that I was, even after spending years with him and traveling all around with him, that Paul was able to tap in really deep in to what Stan believed in and how he felt and viewed himself.
So how much access, Paul, did you have with remote area medical? And how long did you follow the organization?
Well, the access we got from remote area medical was absolutely exceptional. At any stage, they were willing to do whatever we were interested in and actually help us to do it and put time into helping us. I just wish really that I could have spent more time out there. So we filmed 6 shoots over 6 years. So I would have much rather, again, have done the opposite thing. Again, I mean, referring to like observational, direct cinema, what a lot of people dream of doing. I would have loved to have pitched a tent and stayed in Stan's back garden. But ultimately, I think Stan was quite a private person, and that was going to be something very difficult for him to do, to permit. I would say that actually we did really well, and Stan was really open with us, considering the type of character that he actually is. He's a real doer, and that's how he achieved so much. So I don't think he really loved standing around like talking about things. He was happy to talk about the past, but in terms of like talking about the work in detail, I don't think that's something he enjoyed. It must have been a real inefficiency to a guy who is a real doer and wants to get on and has got loads of things to do. So I would have wanted less longitudinal, maybe, but more. I would have wanted more intense time together. But given that I was in London, that was going to be just difficult to do.
That is true. Jeffrey, before I go on, tell us about the mission statement of remote area medical and and what is the organization like after Stan?
You know, Stan was with us and set our foundation, and the mission is really simple: is to provide free health care to those in need, which goes back to his being in British Guyana, seeing the need for health care, being injured there on a horse, and really just leading, showing how just one individual, can make a huge impact. We're approaching 1 million patients and over hundreds of thousands of volunteers, and they continue on. We've gone from a very small cadre, for lack of a better word, of less than 10 people employed. When Stan was with us, we'd already started to grow the organization. He always asked, are we paying these people? And we had to say yes, and kind of underneath our breath, so he didn't really hear real well, but we'd say yes. But however, they do volunteer too, Stan, okay, on that. So we've grown. We continue to do about 150 separate operations a year. The phone calls keep coming in. We're fully booked for 2024 and booking for 2025, coast to coast, border to border. Communities reaching out to remote area medical to provide that free health care, and just following Stan's footsteps from that pickup truck in a dental chair back in 1992. We went down the road to hospital closure. But today, we still have the same situation: people needing health care and hospitals closing.
What I love about the film was that it was portraying on how many missions that Ram was actually going through, and it's amazing. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. Are you over 1,000, or you're coming close to 1,000 missions, Jeffrey?
Yeah, we had this big celebration at 900 because we were excited. Then we had 1,000, and we're over 1,300, fast approaching 1,400.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I don't even know how you guys keep track, or even Paul keep track. Is there like a book that you guys archive or something with all these different?
Oh, absolutely. There's your normal spreadsheets, your Google Drives, you name it. Okay. It's an amazing team. It's a small team of 65. That at a clinic, there's only about 2 or 3 people that are staff. The rest are core volunteers that have left their families, traveled to spend a weekend helping their neighbors. It's hundreds of individuals all coming together to treat other hundreds of individuals that are in need.
Wow. And Paul, how do you know which mission to choose to tell your story for this doc?
Well, firstly, I should just say, if you want to know what Remote Area Medical have been up to in great detail since we stopped filming in 2018, if you come along on the night, November the 14th, there is actually a short film after the feature that's kind of like an update on what Remote Area Medical have been up to. So I'm professionally obliged to point that out. Choosing which expedition to film was always tricky. A lot of expeditions to choose from. There was always certain kind of nailed on clinics that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to do one in Knoxville, which we never did. We did one in Virginia, which is in some ways representative of that part of the world. We wanted to do on the West Coast, which we did in Sacramento. Really wanted to do one on the East Coast, but we never quite got around to it. I think Ram really grew on the East Coast, particularly New York State, like post 2018. We wanted to do one in the center of the country, which was in East St. Louis. And I think generally we wanted to show a demographic spread. We didn't want to say, oh, this is a problem that just affects this community up in the mountains, Virginia, Tennessee. We didn't want to say, oh, it's just for like Sacramento, very Hispanic community. No, we wanted to show or make the point that really the need for healthcare and the need for a remote area medical clinic can occur anywhere in America for any community. And even if people are working, like as we know, that is still not a situation in which you've got great healthcare coverage. Loads of people who work in the US don't get any coverage with their jobs and are paying out of pocket or not paying at all. 25 million people, according to the US Census figures in 2022, 25 million people still do not have access to a doctor.
Yeah, Jeffrey, could you chime in on the healthcare crisis that the United States still going through here? I mean, are we even inching towards anything?
We're getting as close as me stepping outside my office and taking a step towards Paul in Great Britain. That's how close we are to it. You know? And it's Paul had it's access. You know, so it's 25 million people that even if they do have health care, there's high deductibles. They've got to take time off from work. Almost 1 out of every 5 families in the U.S. Have issues feeding themselves. You know, 17%. You know, have had a food emergency in the last year. It's all of that combined. It's just till policy decides that they're, you know, going to move healthcare to the front of the burner. You know, RAM will continue to fill the gaps, and they're huge gaps to say the least.
Well, Jeffrey, you've been in this for a long time now. What keeps you going? What kept Stan going through all of this?
It's making a difference. It's as you pack up the clinic, it's a patient coming by on Sunday afternoon, say, hey, let me help load that truck. Mm-hmm. It's being in a red light in a remote area medical white vehicle with a logo and the person next to you doing a thumbs up. You know, that's what really warms your heart and says, you know, it's just an accident birth. I'm on this side of the fence. Let me help as many people as I can on the other side.
So, Paul, is that the sense that you actually got when you were filming this documentary, that it was just full of smiles despite you know, the situation that's going on all around the country?
It was my first clinic was Sacramento in 2012 in Cal Expo, and Cal Expo is a huge arena, and it was absolutely full of dental chairs, vision clinic, general medicine, women's health. The place was just packed out with practitioners and volunteers and people queuing at the door. And I thought, why does this place feel so eerie, frankly? And I realized like this place was like a crucible for all these people that were suffering. They would all come there. And I was like, yeah, because there's a lot of like trauma in this room. There's a lot of people suffering, and that you could kind of feel it. But then I realized, but the beauty of remote area medical is that everybody who walks out the door walks out in an improved situation. So you shouldn't feel kind of downhearted and depressed at this sight of all these people, because actually what happens is everybody gets their needle shifted. RAM might not be able to help all of your health problems, but they'll certainly do what they can, and you will go out the door in a better state than when you came in. And I thought, oh wow, that's really a beautiful thing. And I think that's why people volunteer for remote area medical. But it does go a bit deeper than that, and I think Stan symbolizes this, and I think this is why people find it so powerful. It's that Stan proves, and the film kind of shows this, that one person can make a difference if they've got purpose, like if they're empowered to do so. And you can even like be this force that brings other people together and achieves something and actually makes a measurable difference. And I think that's very hard to do in any other walk of life. And that's the appeal of remote area medical.
Either of you can answer this question. Is remote area medical, is this Stan's legacy? Because, you know, his life is full of, you know, memories and experiences, you know, from being on a ranch to going to Hollywood. But before his passing, did he want RAM to be what he should be known for?
Well, there's 2 more things, right, that Stan should be really well known for. One, he discovered a type of bat in Guyana, which is called a Vampresi brocchi. Yeah. Secondly, and this isn't even anywhere near the movie, but I love this story. There was a there was a grizzly bear loose on the highway in Texas, maybe, and the police called him and a friend to wrangle the bear, and he told me he chased the bear through 3 back gardens of like the bear smashing the garden fence and then jumping behind it, and eventually like it fell in a swimming pool and they managed to put some sort of like noose thing around it to pull it out. So there's 2 amazing legacies, but yeah, my hope is in all seriousness that what he has chosen to do in the second, and notably in the second half of his life, he had an entirely different life. The fact that he has chosen to pivot to something completely different from sort of 45 years on, I think that's the inspiration for people, and I think that'll be the legacy. You too can have a life well lived if you choose to get behind a cause, even if you're in your middle age.
Yeah, to piggyback with that, if you think about it, he was one of the most unique individuals that started out as a cowboy, a naturalist, a movie star, an aviator, and then probably one of the most well-known philanthropists that there is. But his legacy lives on to 2 vehicles in my mind. One is the organization, and 2 is those hundreds of thousands of volunteers that he's motivated that had to go back to make a difference in their community. That those professional students that come and volunteer, that when they set their own practice up and they get that phone call from a neighbor, they say, yeah, I can see just one. If you take that by thousands and thousands of professional volunteers that can just see just one, it just makes it an amazing legacy.
That is certainly amazing. So as audiences have a chance to watch Medicine Man, the Stan Brock story, what is the one most important take you hope that audiences walk away with after viewing this film?
For my part, it's volunteer, make a difference. Use Stan's legacy as an example. Find something your passion in your community to go make a difference and volunteer in the lives of others.
Paul?
I think I want the American people to be proud that they offered Stan a home. So part of this story is about a man looking for a home, and Stan finds that home in the hospitality of American people, and Ram becomes his family, and then by extension, the patients themselves become his family. So I think America should be kind of proud of that they're able to sort of bring people in from the outside, make them their own, and empower them and give them a home. And I want people to see what they can achieve when they come together, perhaps from like different sides of the political divide, because people at remote area medical come from all backgrounds and all demographics. I want to sort of remind America how it can really achieve great things when communities come together with a common purpose.
Most excellent. Well said. Jeffrey, I'm going to toss the last word to you because, after all, remote area medical, people might actually get inspired. So how can they help?
3 ways. 1, take advantage of this great opportunity to go buy a ticket to Medicine Man, the Stan Brock story. 2, go to ramusa.org, sign up to volunteer or donate.
Most excellent. Well, Jeffrey, Paul, thank you very much for carrying this conversation. Medicine Man, the Stan Brock story is certainly an inspirational. I'm sure anyone who actually watch it will get inspired to do something in the world. And I think that's the point of the documentary. And Stan's legacy will go on. Thank you very much for this talk with us. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.